Hello, and welcome everybody to episode 11. Episode 11 now of Sunday Service with me, your host, Aaron Chandler. And this week's episode is late. I don't have an excuse this time. And to be honest, I didn't have an excuse the other, probably on average 5 times this has happened, I'm just not a very well organized man. And that's just something we're all going to have to come to terms with. I'm going to try to be more consistent with it. But at the end of the day, I haven't really built my schedule around doing this. So if things come up that aren't this that I need to get done, I'm going to do those instead. What came up? That's a good question. Not much, There's 24 hours in a day. I work for about 8 of them. I sleep for about 8 of them. That leaves us with what? Fucking 8. And this takes an hour. And I definitely could have gotten it done. So my plan this week was to kind of finally set in stone a schedule for this podcast, and it was going to be recorded on Wednesday nights, right? And then Wednesday night, I got offered to do a gig at one of the comedy clubs. Had to say yes, obviously, because I want to be a comedian. This fell. I was like, I'll just do it tomorrow on Thursday. Thursday, got offered to do a gig again. Did that. Friday, had a gig already, so I couldn't record it then. I was like, okay, let me do it on Saturday night. Ended up going out with my friends. And there's no excuse for that last one, because, do I want to be a comedian? Yes. Do I want to be a social butterfly? Yes, but obviously that's not very profitable in the long run. Neither is being a comedian, let's be honest. But, it warrants less of my attention than doing this, right? Because we got to get the blue apron ads. We got to get the blue apron ads. We got to get the sponsorships. We got to get the Manscaped Perfect Package 5.0. And we got to show people that we mean business here, right? I want to take out a loan against my own interests on a corporate thing, whatever the billionaires are doing, right? I'm trying to learn about the financial world, but I'm trying to learn about it like really quickly. Like I'm not really digesting the information as fast as I should. Like I learned the term collateral the other day. Don't really know what it means. All I know is that it's a really great movie by Michael Mann with Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx. But in terms of finance, I haven't got a fucking clue. And that's not good because, all right, we're going to get into this week's topic. Hey, how are you guys? You guys doing well? Good. All right. Good. We're all on the same page. We're all locked in. We're all ready for me to talk. All right. Good. Maybe we'll loop back around to you guys. Maybe we won't. Right. A recession is coming. Right. It's coming maybe like in the next 7 years max. Right. There's going to be a recession. Right. And that's obviously bad. Right. But, I'm a finance guy. I know how it all works. Buy the dip, that kind of thing, right? I've always had this idea in my head that when a recession hits, I'd be prepared for it because you can make smart moves during a recession, right? We've all seen The Big Short. We've all seen Ryan Gosling's character make a shitload of money off of the collapse of the Western economy. It's possible, right? So, and that was always in my head. It was always like, okay, one day a recession will come, but when the recession comes, I'll buy the dip, make the smart financial decisions, and I'll come out of it in great shape financially. I've got a bit of savings. I can do this. I can make moves in silence, become a bit of a monopolistic kingpin in the local Irish economy. Right? That was I won't say plan because there was no plan. This is the problem. That was the intent, right? The intent was to capitalize on the fall of the Western economy and come out stronger than ever, take loans against my own stocks or the likelihood that my stocks will depreciate or something, basically spend money that doesn't exist forever and ever, get rich that way, right? But that was always something I put on the back burner. One, because I'm a lazy guy. There's no follow-up adjective there. I'm a lazy guy, I don't have a lot of purpose in my life. I don't have a clear direction of what I want to be doing or what I need to be doing. That light is a little bit bright, I think. So I'm going to lower that just down by 1 notch, right? But, wow, my forehead's so big. But what's happened is one of the reasons it was on the back burner is because I was like, well, the recession, that'll come in like the 2030s, right? Maybe 2040s, right? But it will come, Now what's happened, because we just had a recession in COVID, but that was kind of like a different thing, but it did happen, right? But now what's happened is a recession is going to come within the next 7 years max, And I haven't a fucking clue what to do. They say buy the dip. Buy what? What am I supposed to buy in the dip? Apple stocks? It's like fucking 10 grand a stock. I can't invest all my money into one Apple stock. And what if they don't come back? What if the dip kills them? You know? What treasury bonds? You know, I don't know how that works. Index funds. I kind of have an idea about how those works, but like not enough to know when to buy or when to invest or anything. So right now, I've got all the windows open. You know, I got the Gary V on one side, I got the Dan Bonnett's on the other, Andrew Tate down at the bottom window. He hasn't a fucking clue what he's on about, but you know, you got to get your wisdom from multiple sources, I guess. He's not even a mathematician. Jesus, you know. And then on this other window, those are the three like kind of entertainment windows. On this other window, I've got like, you know, like got like what's his name? This motherfucker. Does the math lectures there on the internet. Maybe I could add I can't remember the dude's name. He worked on the Manhattan Project, right? He doesn't do financial maths, he does physics. I guess I'm going to look this up now, actually. Physics lecturer, famous. You know the guy. I was just watching one of his lectures. Feynman. Didn't even have to wait for the Google search result to finish. I've been watching some Richard Feynman, trying to get the maths under control, you know what I mean? You know, going back over my old linear algebra textbooks, right? None of this information is useful because with money, they just make it all up. So I'm kind of panicking because I don't have a game plan ready. And it's even if I understand how it all works, which I don't understand how finance works. They make it intentionally confusing so that poor people don't get into it, right? But I'm smart enough to figure it out, definitely, but I'm just trying to weed through all of the bullshit, right? Because, like, look, I've seen some of the gang on Wall Street. If they can do it, I can do it. You know, if Leonardo DiCaprio can figure this out, if Jonah Hill can figure this out in 3 different movies, I can definitely get my head around it, right? But it's, we're short on time. We don't have a lot of time to figure it out. And now I don't know what to do. Right? So I'm panicking a little bit. And I don't know, guys. I don't know. I know index funds are important. I know that buying the dip is important. Don't know what the dip is. You know, I don't even know how to look at the stock market yet. You know what I mean? But and I don't think the housing prices are going to go down when the recession hits. I think I think the bubble's going to get bigger because the Chinese are buying up all the houses and their economy's going strong. You know, we need their rare earth metals, I think. And not us, but other countries do, and we buy stuff from those countries. Oh my God, guys. Understanding the economy. Like, I just saw the map of Wall Street and everything's red. And I assume that's bad because red is the color that stoplights are. But I don't actually know. Like, maybe is now the time to buy? Is the dip now that we buy? What if it goes lower and then I'm an idiot for buying it now? They should, I don't know. This is why I like Nintendo, because they never drop their game prices, you know? You know, God forbid you want to buy God of War Ragnarok the day it comes out. Little do you know, 6 months later, it's like 50% off, right? Not Nintendo, you know? Mario Kart World is going to be 80 quid when it comes out, and it's going to be 80 quid in fucking 50 years from now, huh? Yeah, I was watching that Switch 2 announcement. That was pretty interesting. A lot of people complaining about the price. You're still going to buy it. So it's over. So there's no argument to complain about the price. And look, let's face it. I don't know if you guys noticed, economy's in shambles. Of course, the price has gone up. Mario Kart World looks kind of sick. We're going to buy it anyway, right? We're all on the same page there. I don't think I really need to expand too much on that topic. But yeah, I don't know, man. This market. Like, did you know there's more than one market? Like, there are markets, and they all move not in conjunction with each other necessarily, but as all part of one hyper organism, right? I didn't know that. Found that out today. You know, like, and look, all right, I've been looking into banking, right? Now, there's 2 possibilities, right? Either I'm way more stupid than I am, I'm way more stupid than I think I am, which is very possible. I don't want us to dismiss that possibility out of hand, right? that is certainly an option, that my IQ is below the mean. That is possible. That is. I wouldn't be so arrogant as to assume I'm intelligent, That's one possibility. The other possibility is that the banking industry, waiting for sniper dots to appear on my head, is that the banking industry is making shit up as they go along. CDO thing, you know what I mean? You guys have seen The Big Short, right? I don't know. It seems like to me, a lot of the money in the economy doesn't exist. It's just made up, right? It's all built on a foundation of sand. It seems like they're giving out loans that aren't being paid back, but somehow they're getting a benefit from that. And I don't know how. But I know they are, because I know they wouldn't be doing it unless they were getting a benefit. Now, maybe I haven't watched the YouTube videos enough yet to understand what the fuck is happening, but I think bankers might be evil. And I know I'm not the first person to come to that conclusion, but Jesus, like, it's a minefield out there, And I mean bankers of every creed and culture, Just to cover my bases there. So yeah, that's one of the worrying things, right? Is the recession, which will come. My plan is just, I don't even need to be a millionaire after it. I think the ship sailed on that, right? The ship has sailed. I'm not going to be able to make the stock decisions necessary to do that. It's too risky and I don't have enough savings. But what I do want is to be able to get a house. Just one, just one, maybe two, one for renting and then one for living in. And then the rent from the first one pays off the other one, right? Probably not going to happen, right? I want to be a landlord, basically, because, if you can't beat them, become them. You know what I mean? That's the real solution in life. Everyone in Ireland complains about landlords. Guess who's living a great life? Landlords. They have it all. So, is that wrong? Definitely. Should we have maybe a little bit more equality in the nation? Sure. Will we? No. So, best solution, become a landlord. That's kind of my game plan. And that's not even a plan. That's just an intimation, a notion of what sort of vaguely to do. So, I don't know, guys. Look, no one listens to this yet. But if you do, send me your financial advice. And you don't have to be on Wall Street. You don't even have to know finance. You don't even have to know basic arithmetic, really. Just give me your kind of what you feel like is the right decision. Because that's what I like to base my decisions on, is kind of a general vibe, a sort of feeling in the air. That's kind of what I feel is the best way to go about making decisions. That's how people did it since the Stone Age. And it's worked out pretty damn well so far. We've got buildings now, we got technology, we got electricity. A thinking man might have said that playing with fire was a bad idea because it's dangerous and it burns you. Guess what? Someone had a bit of a vibe, a bit of a notion that it would be really cool, actually. And now we have civilization. So I make all my decisions based on kind of the general energy, Because what else would you make them on? You know what I mean? Like, if thinking about things was really that great, smart people would live forever and poor people would die immediately. And do smart people live longer? Yes. Do poor people die younger? Yes, but not by much, in the grand cosmological sense. And some idiots, I said smart people. I said smart people and poor people. Implicit bias. Smart people and stupid people, rather, who are poor. All right. So, I don't know. So that's kind of where we're at mindset-wise this week, right? Is preparing for... Because Donnie, he's doing the tariffs. I don't even know what's going to happen with that. Like, I don't understand what the consequences could be. I know it's... well, I assume it's bad because of the way everyone talks about it. But, you know, maybe if I listened to Fox News, they'd explain why it's actually great, right? But it kind of seems like, because like to me, the thing kind of seems like with the tariffs, right, is basically Trump is going to start taxing the shit out of Europe to trade with America. But the thing is that I don't think America have anything that we want. And I think we've got a lot of stuff that they definitely want, right? Like, you know, like Americans love European shit, right? Because they think they're from here, right? Like, you know, like Americans, they love Irish whiskey, they love Italian sports cars, they love French wine, you know, they love German culture, you know, they love, that was a joke about, never mind, it wasn't that good anyway. You know, they like their automotive engineering, they like the Autobahn, you know, they like Spanish girls, you know. They love a lot of things that Europe has. What do we actually buy from them? Really? You know, microchips. You know, we were doing okay without microchips. You know what I mean? We're certainly not buying their cars, those hunks of shit. You know, American whiskey? No, obviously not. American wine? No, obviously not. American cars? Again, hunks of fucking shit. So basically, it kind of seems like Americans are going to be missing out on all the products they really want, and we're just not gonna. It's going to be more expensive for us to buy the things from them that we don't want to buy anyway. So you win, I guess. I don't know. Like, I'm not really a big political guy. I shouldn't have talked about this topic actually, because now I've made this a politics podcast when I have no idea what that is. Because I mean, at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure America's economy is bigger than any other economy in the world. I'm definitely sure of that. So if they're fucking around, so we must be buying something from them, right? Like, people have to be buying things from America, or otherwise their economy won't be the biggest in the world. Now, obviously, they're buying shit from each other, but, you know, there must be some external exports going on there, right? So no, we are fucking up. So it is going to be fucked up somehow for us. How? Well, look, I'd have to watch the news to do that, and that makes me sad. So I'm going to buy the dip. Whatever that means. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of like, I don't know, I've been trying to educate myself a bit more. So I started reading the finances. I've started just reading more in general. Reading actually is great a little bit. I don't want to sound like a complete nerd, right? But actually, like, literature is very good. Okay. You know, like, I just finished. I was reading Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, which isn't literature. It's just some guy's diary, right? It was very hard to read because it's been translated into English from Latin, and from what I gather, he wasn't a very well-spoken man in general because he makes things sound way more complicated than they need to be at all. But fascinating stuff at the end of the day. You know, very interesting perspectives on life. You know, good to get into the mindset of the most powerful man in the world at one point there. I started reading again because I used to read a lot when I was younger. Haven't read a book for a very long time, really. Not in a consistent kind of way. And this is my first kind of book getting back into reading. And I think it was a good one to read because it's not literature and it's hard to understand, which means you actually really have to focus, which means now the muscle for focusing on reading is ready in my brain for when I read my next book, which is going to be Frankenstein. You know, a little bit of a pleasure read there. You know, one of the great Western classics. You know, and it's probably going to be a lot easier to understand because it was written in English by someone who had a point. Not to say that Marcus Aurelius didn't have a point. It's just he had the same point for 12 books, which is that you just ignore. Fuck the haters is kind of. If you haven't read Meditations, here's the 3 main points. Fuck the haters. We're all going to die. Generally kind of be a decent guy, but not at the expense of not fucking the haters. That's the meditations in a nutshell, right? So yeah, I think, slowly we're making progress into becoming an actual person, The amount of Instagram reels I've consumed has dipped. Now, has it gone to zero? No, because it's the only way I know how to pay attention to the world around me at this point. But it's getting lower, and I think we're kind of getting to a place where we're feeling a little bit more confident about this kind of stuff, right? We're feeling a little bit more confident about being a person, right? Because, I'm 24 now, right? And I've realized I've fallen behind, right? One of the things that we as a society have decided was bad was having kids when you were like 16. There's pros and cons to everything, right? There's pros and cons to everything. Was having kids when you're 16 bad? Probably, because if I had a kid when I was 16, that kid would be dead now. Because I wouldn't have had a fucking clue what to. And if it wasn't dead, it would be probably the next Hitler, right? Because I've got an ego. My son and heir, his ego is going to be bigger than mine because I can't have my kid not living up to my hype, right? So a lot of things would have went wrong if I had a kid when I was 16. What would be good about it, though, is I'd kind of have that out of the way already. Back when I was 16, when I had so much energy. Do you know how much energy I had when I was 16 years old? I could go to school, come home, do all my homework, play football for an hour, come in, have dinner, and then play video games till 4 a.m. and then wake up at 8 for school the next day. And I'd only feel like a little bit shitty. That's insane. All that time I spent playing video games, I could have just raised the kid. Now when my kid's born, I'm going to be tired. I'm going to be so tired. And all the idiots who did have kids when they were like 17, 16, 18, their kids are getting big now. And now I feel like, oh shit, I don't have any kids. And now I know they were probably a bit irresponsible. And, if I had children now, let's say, they probably have like a little bit of a slightly better quality of life just by having a more mature parent. But that's only if I have kids right now. I don't have a wife. I don't even have a girlfriend. I know I'm a fucking loser. I'm 6'3". Well, I'm 6'2". I'm closer to 6'3" than I am to 6'2". But we're going to round down to 6'2". The reason I'm going to round down is because when you're above 6 foot, you can afford to round down. 5'11" guys are shocked that I rounded down. 5'10" guys are shocked that I rounded down to the nearest inch. Right? Rounding down isn't something short people do, right? I'm tall. I'm better than them. I have more prospects than them. I can afford to lowball myself. So I'm 6'2". Already, and traditionally handsome. 6'2", traditionally handsome. That would be on my Wikipedia page. That would be how my Wikipedia page would open. Aaron Chandler, 6'2", traditionally handsome man. Also a comedian. That's what I am, right? I'm 6'2". I'm traditionally handsome. I'm smart enough not to have died yet, despite being a bit brash in my personality, right? And I'm not smart. I'm not saying I'm a smart guy. I'm trying to be a stand-up comedian and do a podcast and buy the dip. These are all things that people on Reddit and 4chan fantasize about doing. And I'm doing them. The reason they fantasize about doing them is because they know it won't work and they're not smart. I'm actually doing it because I'm an idiot and I think I have a chance. And they're going to look like idiots when it totally works out. Right, but I'm 6'2". Traditionally very handsome. Traditionally very, probably even above average attractiveness. Probably above mean attractiveness as far as men are concerned, right? And morally, I am also a person, right? But I feel like I'm I'm a decent conversationalist, right? You know, I'm not a good guy, but not bad enough to be noticed either. No, like, you know, people I meet, they perceive that I'm a good person. That's kind of the vibe I have. You know, they quickly would learn otherwise if they put their faith in me. But at a glance, I seem chill. And I don't have a girlfriend. What? Crazy. What? I know. How? How's that happened? Right? I fucked up a bunch, right? You know, hey, have I hurt people? Yeah. Do I feel bad about that? Yeah. Do I wallow in self-loathing sometimes? Yes. Do I romanticize my self-pity? Yes. Do I romanticize the idea of my redemption in the eyes of God? Yes. Is that incredibly unhealthy? Yes. Is it better than what men in the past did, which is bury their emotions completely? Who knows? We're running the experiment with my life, right? I don't think I'm alone in this, let's call it, trend of consciousness. But I treat my past mistakes like I'm living a movie, right? Like, I don't know. I think a lot of men from this generation do this, which is that, like, okay, you know, not everyone is a good, you know, not everyone makes decisions in their life that they're not happy with, right? You know, and the good thing, the kind of emotionally mature thing to do there is to kind of apologize, move on, and make an effort to be a better guy, right? What the pretty cool thing to do though is like wallow in it a little bit and then think really hard about how you need to redeem yourself, like someday, like, you're just sitting on your own and you're chopping in a tree or something and your family's just like, are you okay? And then you're just like, I miss her so much. You know, that's what you do, you know? And then you chop down the tree and then you take your anger out on the log, chop it really hard, break it, throw it onto the fire, and then you turn to like your like niece or something, and you're just like, I'll only stay away from me, kiddo. I'll only let you down. And then they're all like, no, but you're a good guy, you know, you do so much. And then you're just like, if you put your trust in me, I'll only end up betraying it. I'm a bad guy. And then you go on this kind of like character arc where you prove you're actually a good person and that those bad things didn't define you, but not without really rubbing it into people's faces that you think you're unworthy of redemption, right? You know, a lot of just going, don't do this, kid. You're gonna force me to be someone I don't want to be anymore. Don't make me hurt you. You know, you're gonna go through a lot of that, right? Here's the thing though. You're not Kratos. You're not Omni-Man. You, and by you here I mean me, you didn't kill countless thousands of innocents, right? That's not what you did. You hurt a girl's feelings when you were like 18. Get over it. Move past it. You were a kid. You know, it doesn't need to be this deep. Just be a good guy. It's not that hard. Just kind of gather yourself together. Say, I fucked up. Let me not do that again. And also be a little bit forgiving because you were only 18. And learn from your mistakes. Don't spend your entire young adult life going, every time I look at a girl, I just think about all the ways that I might hurt her and I can't bring myself to love her. Don't do that. Because we live in the real world. We don't live in a movie. We don't live in a video game. We don't live in Invincible. We live in the real world where when you do a bad thing, you either, one, go, that didn't feel that bad. Actually, I'm going to keep doing that. Or you go, fuck it. That was a balls. Weirdly, I don't feel as bad as I think I should have, but I won't do it again. And then sometimes the third option is you feel really, really bad about it, and then you definitely don't do it again, right? Those are the three options. Talking about how bad a guy you are for 6 years after it, just get over yourself. Because no one remembers. Guess what? The girl, she moved on. She doesn't care anymore. You know, your first girlfriend, she's fine now. She's probably happy. Probably doesn't even think about it. You know? Yet you do. Yet you do. Like, say you committed genocide. It's like you just bullied a guy in school a little bit once. You know, like Jesus is willing to let things like that slide. You know? You know, like one wedgie isn't a one-way ticket to hell. It's like you can bounce back from this. In fact, you already should have. It would have taken like a week to bounce back from that. It's been 10 years. But there is nothing quite like wallowing in self-pity a bit. I might treat myself to a bit of that today, actually. You know, I haven't wallowed in my I haven't, romanticized my pain in like a good few weeks now, actually, you know? Because it does you do kind of feel class. That's why all these like Ryan Gosling edits, like from Blade Runner on TikTok are so popular and shit like that. Like just him being all broody and sad. Like that's why Batman's such a big character. It's because like men because I mean, I guess it's a bit, because that's basically the best way for a man to express his emotions, right? Is to just sit there and just be like, the pain is just below the surface. I can't show it to you, but I'm pretty fucked up and sad about a lot of things that happened to me. But instead of confronting my feelings, what I'm gonna do is beat the shit out of people. But in a way that's kind of like, it's sad, you know? Like I wronged a lot of people in my past. I killed a lot of people, and I still do. But now when I do it, every time I do it, I feel bad about it. I think to myself, damn, I wish I could have let him live. But I couldn't, because that damn son of a bitch was going to kill the people I love. And no one's going to hurt the people I love except me, because I'm a monster deep down inside. And I know I can't be redeemed, but goddamn it, I'm trying. I'm trying to do better. Goddamn, I'm such a god-frickin' forsaken bastard. But I tell you, me and the devil, we're gonna have a couple of beers down in hell, and he's gonna say, God damn it, boy, you did your damnedest, you dirty bastard. Now get in there where I can ass rape you along with Hitler. You know, it feels really great, you know? Because it looks cooler than crying. You know what I mean? And it takes way longer than crying. You know, crying takes like 3 minutes. Wallowing in self-pity, that's kind of a lifetime process. But it's basically the best way to express your despair without looking like a bitch. So I do understand why we all do it. But at the end of the day, until I committed genocide that was secretly necessary, but also vengeance based. You know what I mean? Until I do some Doctor Who stuff, you know? Until I end a war, but for the good guy. Until I fight in World War III for the good guys, right? And then single-handedly end the war, but then feel really bad about all the people I killed. It's like I haven't earned that, you know? It's like, all right, you didn't tell your grandparents you loved them before they died. It's like, move on. You know, life goes forward, you know? Right? You know, so why you made a girl cry, you know? It's fine now. Just move past it, right? So obviously, that's why I don't have kids. Because broke one girl's heart and can't function in relationships now. But definitely easily could if I was half-arsed, but get a bit too broody about myself, you know? So, but what I'm realizing, because I'm 24 now, is that actually running out of time to have kids. Because having a kid when you're 30, That's fucked. First of all, very difficult, very hard on a woman to have a child when they're older, right? That doesn't matter for me because my wife is going to be born in 3 months. And no, but you want to be with someone you're, within like I'd say 5 years of you either way. For me right now, probably 4. I'm 24 by the way. That's why there's a little. Yeah, so you want to be with someone who's within like 4 years of you. If you're having a baby when you're 30, let's say your partner's kind of 30 as well. For women, that's when things start to get a little bit tricky with the whole having babies thing, right? Slowly but surely, right? We're not at 35 yet, but it's getting dark, right? So I think you want to be having kids around 27 max, right? At 27, I think is the ideal age. One, because that's when like both of you are out of college, your wife is as sexy as she's ever been because she's 27 and that's the best age for human beings. And you kind of are a little bit financially stable, but you also have money and, you've had your college time, right? But also your wife can still probably handle the stresses of that on the body relatively well without too many complications, right? 27-year-old woman. 27 to 29. What an age, What an age, because like, I think a lot of women that age are a little bit insecure that they're starting to get towards the 30s, but no, ladies. What it is, you see, you still got the graceful beauty, that like youthful glow about you, but now you're not stupid, And like, a lot of these guys will say like, I don't like women 30 and over are gorgeous as well. They're just gorgeous in a slightly different way, but overall women are great in general is what I'm kind of getting at. But 27 to 29, sweet spot, right? For men, I think the sweet spot is probably 37 to 41, let's say. And let's expand the parameters on women. Let's say 26 to 29, right? But the point is, 26 to 29, that's in 2 to 5 years for me. Don't have a wife. Don't even have a girlfriend. Don't even have like a candidate, Don't even have like a pact with someone from when I was younger where it's like, if we're not married by 29, let's marry each other, Didn't make a backup plan, Completely freelance at the moment, Not on the apps because I'm not telling my son I met his mom on an app, And I know that's immature, I know that's stupid, but I'm just not doing it. Because how am I supposed to live with that? Like, how did you meet your mom's son? Don't worry about it. Or hey dad, how did you meet, sorry, I fucked all that up. Hey dad, how did you meet mom? Hinge. So you weren't physically attractive enough for Tinder. I wasn't in the gym, son, I wasn't in the gym. Okay, I didn't have the Tinder physique. Right? I didn't have the fucking Tinder physique, right? Yeah, I have notes. Can you believe this show is ran on notes, I do, I'm starting to pull myself together a little bit, right? But basically, right, is if I want to have a family and have kids, and I think that's something I probably want to do, no, I know that's something I want to do, let me not be insecure about it. I want to do that, right? Some guys, they want to do coke and make lots of money. That's fine too, I'm not going to judge that, will you definitely be way sadder at the back half of life? Only if you make it that far. I think it's fine if you just want to waste away on drugs. I do, but I really want to do that. I want to have kids and push them on the swing and stuff, but I want to push them on the swing before my back gets all fucked up. Human backs get fucked up way too early. 28. 28 is when your back starts to get fucked up. Guess what? You might have 60 more years left. 60. And your back is already practically unusable. Too early. All of the other shit starts to, it starts to slowly deteriorate in your 30s. And then in like your late 40s is when it's like, all right, fuck, we need to get a look at these knees, right? The back just gives up so quickly, And I know there's things you can do. I know if you're like good with your lower body exercises and stretching out your hamstrings and stuff, that's less likely to happen. But still, it's crazy, It's crazy. I guess it's, I guess being the only upright animal is tough, right? I guess it's, it's hard to be at the top. I guess we gotta face that at some point as well, right? So yeah. So Don't have a plan for the financial thing. Don't have a plan to have a baby. Luckily with babies, you don't really have to plan them out too much. I mean, you should, right? You definitely should. That's the wise thing to do. But people didn't for thousands of years, and it was fine. Like, it was. Like, oh, they have trauma, generational trauma, the parents, whatever. Overall, positive net value on having kids just by going on instinct, by just being like, overall, I don't want to pull out is as good a reason to have a kid as any. And look, I know that doesn't sound good, and I know you can make a lot of arguments against it, but statistically speaking, it has worked. And you can't argue with that. That's just a fact. It has worked, and it will continue to work. We're in a lull at the moment, We're in a lull, right? We're in a little bit of a lull where things aren't working out. But it's going to come back, right? But we're only in the lull now because only the stupid people are doing it, right? Because when sex education came in, all the smart people listened. They were like, oh, having a kid young is stupid, even though it's not that stupid. But, the education system told them it was. And they were smart enough to listen to the education system, but not smart enough to make their own judgments. And maybe, actually, there are some benefits to it as well. But overall, in the long term, they're probably detrimental to society. Those kids were all like, all right, let's stop coming inside each other when we're only 17, right? But then all the stupid kids, they didn't listen and they kept doing it. So now, only stupid people are having kids really young. Which means, one, they're outpacing us population-wise. And yes, I am lumping myself in with the smart people. Thank you for noticing. One, they're doing that, right? But two, the smart people aren't doing that. So it looks like teen pregnancy is really bad because only fucking idiots are doing it. But I bet if some of these smart kids, if they just bust a nut every now and then, I bet it would work out for them, Because that was what was happening. You know what I mean? No, but I don't really believe it either. I don't know, right? Wallowing in self-pity, that's kind of like, thank God I'm 6'2". Thank God I'm 6'2". Because I was thinking about it the other day. I don't like this about myself. It's a part of my personality that I'm not really... you ever think that if you truly comprehended the weight of your own sins, you'd suffocate beneath their crushing mass? No, just me? Okay. I was thinking about this, right? I'm 6'2". If my height capped at 5'10" or lower, I'd be an incel. And that's just true. That's just true. I would be an incel right now if at the age of 16 I hit 5'10" and stopped growing. That's what would have happened, right? And I don't know how to come to terms with that, right? And I wouldn't have been one of these, like, no, look, I would have been a very specific genre of incel. I wouldn't have been one of these, like, I wouldn't have been a 4chan incel. I would have been a Reddit incel. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't have been, like, talking about how the Holocaust wasn't that bad, actually. Like, that's not the type of incel I would have been, I would have been talking about how communism wasn't that bad. That's the kind of incel I would have been. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have been sitting at home on my computer fantasizing about, machine gunning girls. No, I would have been at the feminist rallies. I would have been there, talking about how, like, how much of an ally I am and how shitty other guys are. That's the type of incel I'd be, I'd just be like following women around like lapdogs, telling them how beautiful and serene and graceful they are, and how, I don't know how men could treat you so poorly, because you're such an exquisite creature. Us men, we're sinful and corrupt. We don't deserve you, These assholes we're hanging around with, they don't deserve you. You're so much better than that. You deserve a good, nice guy who treats you well. That's what you deserve. You deserve a guy like me, No? Okay. Fine. I guess if you want to be with that dickhead,
that's your decision. But maybe you shouldn't have decisions if you're going to be making stupid decisions like that. You ever think that, you know, in the past, women didn't have decisions, and then I could take whatever woman I wanted, and I would have made her my wife. That's what I would have done. You know, that's the type of incel I would have been, right? Not one of the cool ones, you know? One of the like, I would have been the Gollum of incels, you know? That's a hard reality to come to terms with, right? That didn't happen, right? I'm in the multiverse timeline where my mom was tall enough such that I would grow to be 6'2". My dad likes a petite pure. It could have not worked out for me, right? That could have easily happened. I don't know how to deal with that because, look, I wasn't a good guy in my youth, you know? Luckily I was a little bit charming, but that took me a while to develop. If my life was slightly worse, you know, if people were treating me ever so slightly worse, you know, because people didn't treat me bad when I was growing up, but I was just kind of like, you know, I was getting the wrong ideas in my head about life. Not those ideas that I was just alluding to there. I didn't get those ideas, but I know I would have if my life were slightly worse. I was just thinking like, you know what, communism's probably fine, you know, we should. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, he had to kill millions of people to make it work, you know? Those were the ideas I was kind of having when I was 14, 15, right? I got out of them fast enough. You know, I cleared the board quick enough to where I was like, all right, you know, maybe the gulags were horrible, actually. You know, that like I got there fast enough. But if like, that's because like I had just developed enough of a kind of charm. And my height, with a little bit of charm, and then my height carrying me over the hump, some woman was just like, you know what? He's fine, actually. You know? There's enough good qualities about him that I will put my mouth on his penis. And that changed everything. That changed everything. Like, that set me on the right path in life, you know? It's just one girl giving me enough positive attention, you know, for me to be like, you know what? Maybe being crazy is the wrong idea. You know, you know, one of the things is where you're like, you know, it happens for this time, and then you're just like, oh, I put way too much pressure on this in my head. Being with girls is actually great and fun and fine, and there's no pressure. There's not as much. There is pressure, but you know, it's nice and sweet actually as well. Also, you know, that was like step number one, where I was like, okay. You know, no need to go a bit mental, you know? Step two, it was like, okay, now that I've had it, I feel like I can go without it, you know? Like, I don't feel like, you know, it's the most important thing in the world anymore. You know, I just feel like, oh, it's something great that I want to do. But like, you know, it's like, now that I know I can achieve it, I'm not like losing my fucking mind that I'm not achieving it, right? But if I were slightly shorter, you know, a couple of those zingy one-liners, they wouldn't have come off quite as well, you know? And maybe that girl would have been like, okay, you know? Because, I mean, she did like that I was taller than her. Let's face that. You know, let's face it. She liked that I was a tall guy. You know, if we had just strayed a little bit, you know, if the bullet had just curved slightly, you know what I mean? If the arc of the trajectory of the whole thing had just curved slightly, which it would have if I were just slightly shorter, right now, this city would be in ruins. And look, you know, one of the things that men do is when they fantasize, when men kind of have their fantasies of like, what if I was actually a really bad guy? We always think that we'd be like top notch. We think we'd be like Homelander or Hitler, you know what I mean? We don't think we'd just be some background villain, you know, but most of us will be. Like, we think we'd be the Joker, we'd actually just be like the Penguin, you know? But not like the cool new Penguin from the show, but like the one with a monocle. You know what I mean? Like, that's who we'd actually be. We wouldn't be making these grand statements, these grand moves. We'd just be chilling. You know? So luckily, so yeah, I'm like, but I was 6'2". I got enough positive attention from women that I didn't lose my fucking mind. Not an overly large amount of positive attention that I developed an ego. I developed an ego in every other aspect of life, but not in that particular one, right? And now I'm something approximating a good person. You know, there's an idea of an Aaron Chandler that's a good guy, right? That's something, that idea exists in people's heads, you know? Whether or not there's evidence to back it up is an entirely different story. But enough people out there think I'm a good enough guy that I can get by in life, right? You know, no one really thinks I'm creepy, you know? And maybe there was a few women early on who were like, oh, I don't know. But, you know, he grew out of it, you know? He's back on track, right? He's in the right lane, right? And I guess, you know, I don't know what to do about that. I don't know what to do about the fact that it could have easily gone that other way, you know? I guess just like, fuck them, you know what I mean? Way, I got lucky, you know? Because honestly, being like, I think I can handle 5'11", right? Because if you're 5'11", you can just lie. You can just be like, I'm 6 foot. No one's gonna notice, right? No one's gonna notice, you know? Like you can lie about that. You can wear shoes with like a little bit of an elevation. You're gonna get away with it. Most women are sufficiently below 6 foot that it's gonna be impossible to tell, right? All you gotta do is, if you're in a conversation with a guy who definitely is actually 6 foot, don't lie, because then you'll get caught out, right? Just lie like if someone there who's 6'2", lie. If someone's there who's 6'1", lie. If someone's there who's exactly 6 foot, abandon ship, right? But when you're 5'10", people know 5'10" isn't 6 foot, you know? They can't tell the difference between 1 inch, but they can tell the difference between 2. They just can. They'll know immediately. And if I couldn't have gotten away with that lie, and women had found me that very slight bit less attractive, the damage I would have done to myself as a moral agent would have been horrible. Hang on now, we gotta pause this recording for a second. I forgot something. But I'm just left with that information that I should have been the villain. That was the path that was laid out for me. You know, I was supposed to be Odin from God of War Ragnarok. That's who I was supposed to be. You know, a meek little villain pulling his strings in the corner. And now I'm not. And now I don't know how to be a good person. I wasn't made for that. But someone sucked me off once, and now I kind of feel like I have to be. You know? And I don't really know where to go from here. I don't really know what the point of that whole rant was, you know? Suffering under the weight of my own sins. Yeah, like, because that's harkens back to that self-pity thing. It's like I feel bad about a lot of things, and some of them I didn't even do, but I know I could have, you know? I think that was kind of mildly entertaining, that whole rant. You know, a little bit too much of an insight into who I am as a person, but look, I mean, I'm not Superman, right? I want to be. That's, I think, there's a good goal. Superman, that's the kind of, because Superman, unlike Kratos and Omni-Man, he kind of makes you romanticize the idea of being like a properly good person who doesn't do bad things. You know, he's not the anti-hero, he's the traditional hero. I saw that new Superman trailer. The new one, the James Gunn one. I don't know if it's going to be good, but I'm going to watch it. I love Superman. You know, Superman is like he's right up there with Spider-Man, you know, as far as the good people superheroes go, you know. I mean, neither of them are as cool as Batman, but they both got more heart to them, I think, you know. And I think that's nice, right? It looks good. I think it'll be a good movie, actually, you know. I don't know, like, I mean, I get a little bit, not tired of, but like, you know, like Green Lantern is in it, and like, it's just like, why? You know, like, we get it, other superheroes exist. Like, I know that's a lot of people have that criticism of like Avengers movies where they're just like, well, like, you know, like, why is Captain America fighting the Hulk on his own? Like, why doesn't he just call the other Hulk? And it's like, because it's a fucking Captain America movie. Because the title of the movie is Captain America. Sometimes you want to just see a movie with them on their own. You know, and I would kind of prefer to see just Superman just chilling, vibing on his own, doing a Superman thing. You know, that was, there's a show, Superman and Lois, it was called. I watched that. That's really good. That's great Superman stuff. You know, that's the type of stuff that makes you really just, you know, cry yourself to sleep at night going, wow, I could be such a better man and I'm not. You know, and I'm hoping this is how that makes me feel. Not in the, you know, righteous kind of, no, I'll never be a good guy, so don't expect me to. You know, not in that way, but more in a way of like, I can be better, you know, like Jesus, you know, that's what Jesus is for, I guess. For us to be like, you know what, maybe my sins are forgivable, you know? Like, if Kratos read the Bible, he'd be fine. I almost want to end on that line, but I want to hit the hour as well. So I went to Batman is great, though, you know. So there is that aesthetic element of the being like, I'm such a bad guy. You know, like that's why people like, you know, that's why people like Twilight, you know. Like if Jacob and Eric, I think, from Twilight, if they were just running around being like, I don't know what the chick's name is, Anna Kendrick, I saved a cat from a tree. Am I good enough for you? Like, if they'd run around doing that, like, she wouldn't have picked either of them. But like, when they were running around beating the shit out of people, you know, hiding their emotions, she was all over it, right? I haven't seen the movies. I know Ian McShane is in one, which is wild. Isn't really, you know, I guess he's in a lot of good stuff, but he's also definitely in some bad stuff as well. So Ian McShane plays Odin in something, you know. I want to play God of War Ragnarok Valhalla, actually. That's a little goal of mine. Bring it back into God of War. That's why I'm like in the midst of like, that's what I'm thinking about, all this like romanticizing the you know, self-pity and you know, self-loathing thing, because I was just watching some cutscenes from that game, but I never played the Valhalla expansion, and it looks really, really fun, actually. So, but then again, playing video games is a waste of fucking time, of the finite time we have on this mortal plane. It is a little bit, you know, sometimes it's nice sometimes, but it's like, I don't want to be sinking like 30 hours into that shit either. You know, because I'm reading now. I'm better. I'm better than you now. Yeah. Not in the moral sense, because I'm still wallowing. But I'm better than you on every other metric we can fucking measure on. Do you understand that? Not really. Is this even enjoyable to listen to? I have a sneaking suspicion. Oh, the lens flare's so bad. I have a sneaking suspicion that it isn't. I don't know, right? I don't know. I feel like, okay, you know, I feel like we got through a lot of the substance that this episode had to offer. Batman. Yeah, I was talking about that. Now I'm going to just, get into some lighthearted topics, you know? Just to end this out, just to finish these aspects. That new Batman movie has a Metallica song in it. Was there something? I probably have already sang too much of it. The sponsors are getting pulled, but you know, the Nirvana song, Something in the Way, has that in it. I was I'm too young to have seen Nirvana. Some of my older friends, they were big Nirvana hits growing up. We went to a little Nirvana tribute band the other day. Pretty great. Had a great time there, you know. That's what I did on Saturday instead of recording the episode of this podcast that I was supposed to record. But I really enjoyed it. And they have one song that, it's just crazy. No one, because I'm from a younger generation, no one told me the song existed. And I'm not going to say the name of the song, but I think anyone who knows Nirvana knows the song I'm talking about. Because the song's title is a crime. A very bad crime. It would like, imagine if Michael Jackson made a song called I Love Kids. Now, it's not that exact thing, but, you know, the name of the song is just horrible. And then the song is just them saying that horrible thing over and over again. No one told me that. That song has existed the entire time I've been alive. You know, Do a Bad Thing to Me by Nirvana. You know, do a crime of an XYXX chromosomal nature to me. You know, that kind of thing. It's mad that I'm not saying that of all things. And I'm not going to. Now that I've committed to not saying it, I'm not going to. Fuck it. Why not? Yeah, fuck that shit. But since I've existed, that song has existed. And the fact that I'm only finding out about it now, when it's the funniest song ever, is a crime. You know, and that's all I can say about it, really. But one of the things I did at the this was fucking crazy, actually. All right. So one of the things I love to do on a night out, and I did it on this night out, is I love to just like when I'm a little bit tipsy, I love to just go into the men's urinals, and there's a couple of other people at the urinals anyway. What I like to do is I just like to, I like to pull my willy out, and I just like to go, room for one more, boys. I think that's kind of fun. I like to open up with just a little witty comment, right? When I walk into to men's urinals, like just engage in some pleasantries, right? Just walk up, call me Malcolm in the Middle, boys. It's like probably am I going to get the shit kicked out of me one day? Maybe. Most of the time people just laugh. Most of the time it is just fun, right? I know I can definitely see some guys taking it the wrong way, but like I just like to walk up and say like, look, guys, mine's really small. Can you just please not judge me? Like that's what I like to do. I just like to do fun stuff like that. It's cold in here now, boys. No judgment. That's like it's just a little bit of fun, a little bit of banter. I'm only bringing that up because I recommend doing it on a night out, because I had a really great time doing it the other night. All of the interactions were very pleasant. So if you're at the urinal, a urinal is a great place to make friends. Is all I'm saying, right? That's kind of going to be the central message of our podcast. But it actually reminded me of this other time, right? So, all right, one of the things that happened to me a different time, right, is I went into the urinal, and I walked in, and there's 3 urinals. 2 on this edges were occupied, obviously, because of the law of urinals, and then the one in the middle was empty. So I walk up to the one in the middle, and I start standing at that one. When I start peeing, the 2 boys on the edges, they leave. So now I'm standing in the middle urinal on my own. And there's only 2 other urinals to my left and right. So the other guy walks in, another guy walks in, and obviously I look fucking insane. So immediately I just say, he stands up next to me on the left, and immediately I just say, I go, hey, just so you know, there were 2 guys in here when I started peeing. And he goes, oh, okay, because I thought you were mental standing in the middle. Like, that's how ingrained the urinal rules for men are, right? That's just another little tangent on that. But then, a few weeks ago, I went into a urinal, and it was a piss trough setup, which I'm more of a fan of, Like, individual urinals, they're great for like a shopping center, if you're like, if you're at the mall, as the Americans say. That's a great place for individual urinals. You got your little bit of privacy. You can take your time. It's not good for a club. It's not good for a pub or a club or anywhere where alcohol is being consumed, because it's like, we gotta fucking just get through this shit. What I'm a big fan of is just the throff. The throff on the ground, or the throff against the wall. I know they're different. I guess one is better for just people who are getting langers drunk, just like, because like, oh look, as long as it goes on the floor, it's fine. So I guess I prefer that one overall. But the reason I like that is because like it's just, you can squeeze an extra person in, you know what I mean? It's like the business can get done a lot more efficiently, because like 5 guys can stand at that at once, maybe even 6 if someone's feeling brave, right? Someone's willing to cross the streams, or maybe if there's a dwarf, right? But I went into this this bar, and it was the trough setup on the floor, drains on the floor. It's like, you cannot miss this piss, basically. Like, if you get piss anywhere that isn't into the drain, like, you have to be doing that on purpose, right? Anyway, I walk up. It's quite a big one. It could probably fit like 5 guys. On each edge, there's 2 guys standing. So I stand smack dab in the middle just to maximize the distance, as is the law of the urinal, right? Those 2 guys leave, right? 2 men walk in together then. Not together. 2 men walk in individually at the same time, right? That's what happens. They come up, so I'm in the middle. They come up either side of me. A little bit less distance than I would like. We're all drunk. I'm going to ignore it, And this time I don't really say anything. I've already made my like nice little comment / remark to the other gentleman at the urinal. And, you know, I'm finishing up now, right? So they both take out their boys, you know, they start peeing. And then I finish peeing. Pull up, put the Johnson back away, turn around. There's a sink right behind the urinal, the piss trough, with a mirror. Walk up to the sink, and in the mirror, I see the two guys that were either side of me, they're coming together. And they come together in the middle, and they started making out furiously with their cocks in their hand while pissing. It was 11 a.m. Or was it 11 p.m.? It wasn't that late. I couldn't believe it. You know? I could not believe, because it seemed like they didn't know each other at all. And now they were just mauling the face off each other while pissing. They didn't have boners, which, I mean, you look, they're grown men. They're not going to get a boner just from kissing, obviously. But it was crazy. So I turned around. I was like, you know, room for one more, boys. That's a little joke there. I think I might do that on stage one of these days. I don't think so. We'll just burn it on the podcast here, right? That's fine. But yeah, like, it was just so shocking to me, you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, guys, this is a sacred place. This is for peeing and having banter, you know? Like, I don't like people integrating toilet activities into sexual activities. That's my thing. You know, Germany, God bless you, but the shitting on the chest, you guys took it too far with that one, as you have so many other things. Yeah. And no, we're getting a bit of I guess I'm kind of a Sisyphus situation at the moment with my life, you know? Just rolling the ball up the hill, seeing where it takes us, you know? I just had Sisyphus written on my notes there. And when I want the thumbnail to have a Sisyphus kind of theme, so I just said it at the end to get it in, right? But I think it's been established with, you know, me talking about the weight of my sins and, you know, the self-wallowing and that kind of thing. But, you know, I just wanted to really spell it out towards the end there. And I think actually that's going to be the episode, guys. I think, you know, that was actually a pretty good one, I would say, overall. Was it funny? Probably not, but I said everything I wanted to say. So, yeah. Thank you for listening to episode 11 of Sunday Service with Aaron Chandler. We don't have a sponsor yet. I will sell out. And it won't be a sellout thing. It's like, I need to pay the fucking bills, you know, but I will sell out. I'd love to get some religious sponsors for this podcast. Like if like the Church of Latter-day Saints or like the Mormons sponsored me, that would be unreal. I would read the ad with no sense of irony. I can promise you that, guys. I would give you an honest to God, very good, very trustworthy advertisement for the Book of Mormon. Please send some money my way. And then don't take revenge on me when it doesn't work out. Yeah, we need to get a sponsor going. We need to get viewers going so that the sponsors will want to support us. And then we need to just get we need to get a congregation going, you know? Boom. Don't know why I said that like it was the smartest thing ever. Yeah, I'll call you guys, you know, like the following of this podcast will be my congregation. The congregation of Aaron Chandler. That's what we need to get going here. A nice Christian congregation of like-minded viewers who can be any religion, you know? Whatever they want, as long as they click on the Manscaped ads. But yeah, you know, that's episode 11. You know, I'm feeling pretty happy about the way the podcast is going at the moment. So, good night, God bless, and take it easy.